Hi, my name is Summer Janae, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to talk to you about a very serious topic. I'm in a private Facebook group, and in the group, the discussion came up regarding online degrees versus traditional brick and mortar degrees. And I can't see the other post because it's private, and I think I would have to put a comment in to see the full story of what's going on. And I've tried to write two posts so far and got taken away because they were just getting too long. So I thought I'd make this video. And so today I'm making this video to say what I don't have time to write because by the time I get ready to post it, it's like disappeared off my phone. So what I would like to say is why I chose a online doctoral program vice a regular traditional brick and mortar, because the conversation from what I've gleaned and what I could see in some of the responses is people think that if you attend an online program for I guess any degree based on what I was looking at, is your degree isn't legitimate or whatever the conversations were. But my response is, at the time when I started my doctoral program, I started a doctoral program because I was getting discriminated against and didn't even know I was being discriminated against until I was in the middle of my program and I was almost done. All I had left were my comprehensive exams and my dissertation. So let me back up. So my husband used to be active duty military, and for us, we'd move every I don't think we stayed anywhere 3 years. So every 2 years, and sometimes it was every year. For me, the employment path was very challenging. Even though I came into the marriage with two bachelor's degrees, ended up getting my master's degree within the first, I would say, 2.5, 3 years, and was still having a hard time finding federal employment. Let me say that. And the reason I said federal employment is because for me, especially back then, back in 2001, it was easier to transfer it with the federal government than to go or be with private industry. A lot of things have changed now with COVID and there's remote work and all of that. But back then, that was unheard of. And so I kept, every time I would apply for a federal position where it was whether it was a GS2 or a GS14, I kept getting, I didn't meet the minimum qualifications. Well, they have student workers who they hire for the summer at the lower grades. So to tell someone who had then two bachelor's degrees that they didn't meet the minimum qualification, I don't know why it didn't go off in my mind then that something was wrong, but I didn't know enough about the system to be able to hone in on exactly what it was. So I just kept going to school. So at my first duty station, I ended up getting my master's degree and I got it in human resources. And when I finally realized something was wrong was we were at, I don't know which duty station number it was, but we were at a duty station. We were headed to a new duty station, and it was a place that had a lot of human resources jobs. Let's just put it like that. And there was a particular announcement that had 10 vacancies. And what they used to tell me all the time was, oh, they couldn't reach me because they had to get to the veterans. Well, I told my husband, I said, okay, they have 10 jobs and they say that they're developmental. You can qualify based on education. I have a master's in human resources. If they tell me that I don't meet the minimum qualification for this, I'm going to file a complaint because something is not right. I can see maybe 3, 5, maybe 7 veterans that are in the field that you can't reach me for. But all 10 of those positions, if they tell me I didn't meet the minimum qualifications or they couldn't get to me, I'm going to file a complaint. And lo and behold, that's what happened. But by the time we had that announcement and I figured out that that was what was going on, I'd already started a doctorate program. As a matter of fact, back up a little, I started two. I started one with the school, and I'm not going to name that school's name, but to me, I would say do your research, because to me, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in this PhD program, and then I was like, let me look them up. I know I should have did that first, but when I looked them up, I kept seeing like diploma mill. And for me, I didn't want my degree to be associated with a diploma mill personally. And so once I realized that's what was going on with that school, and I can't remember if they were on 60 Minutes or something like that. But anyways, I ended up dropping out of that school, calling them, canceling, and saying, "Hey, yo, I don't want to do this. This this is not right for me." So then I actually took the time and started researching, starting with accredited. That's number one. You want an accredited school. I started researching accredited schools, and then I wanted to. So my initial my initial degree out the gate in undergrad was psychology. But I told you guys, if you've watched some of my earlier videos, you know I got into my senior level classes, and I would hear the psych majors in those senior level classes saying how they were having a hard time finding a job, and I was like, that's not going to be me. So I went over to the School of Business. Then I went to the School of Business to pick a minor, and ended up picking something that I really enjoyed, and ended up double majoring. And then I was trying to figure out, okay, what field can I tie these two together? And it was HR. So that's how I ended up getting my master's. And then for my PhD program, I was looking at industrial and organizational psychology programs. And I was also looking at programs where you could major in human resources or even have a concentration in it. But the primary thing I was interested in, because we were moving every 2 years at a minimum, or at most, I was going to be somewhere for 2 years. I wanted a program that would allow me to keep moving forward with my degree. I didn't have to restart every time my husband got PCS orders. So that's what drove me to an online program, because for my undergrad and my master's, I did them both like in person. So my bachelor's degrees I did physically on the home campus at Alabama A&M University. And then my master's degree, I did that one at a satellite school on a military installation, but I still had to go in person, like on the weekends to class. Like every Saturday and Sunday, I was in class working on coursework. And then during the week, I would do my homework, or sometimes they'd give us homework like on Saturday for Sunday. And so I had the experience, and I thought that, well, I knew myself. I knew I was motivated enough, because I wanted to contribute to my family. I wanted to make sure like my husband didn't have to carry the load. So I wanted to work, and I'd always worked since I was like 15. So for me, I just wanted to contribute. And so when I started applying for jobs and couldn't get one, and going back to this story where we were at the beginning when I was telling you about, I've applied for everything from a 2 to a 14, and it didn't meet the minimum qualifications. Well, at a minimum, with a master's degree, I was qualified to come into the door as a GS9. With a PhD, you are qualified to come into the door as a GS11. So that's with no experience if you're just doing based on education alone. So for me, when I was getting those, you don't meet the minimum qualifications, and I filed that complaint when the investigation was going on, or when there was like a face-to-face, if you will, and they were asking the people, well, her name is up here and she has spousal preference. How did you get past her to get the person that's underneath her that doesn't have spousal preference? Like at that point, when those conversations were going on, for me, it had taken so long. But at that point, I was at the end of my second trimester with my son. I was high risk, and I just was like, I'd already given like the attorney my signing bonus for the job that I was in to just, and he didn't do jack diddly squat. Like I was doing all the research and all of that. So like, I think you have to ask yourself, like, how deep is it for you to like keep pressing? At that time, the health of my son and getting him to the world safely was more important than that case or whatever was going on. So after I heard what I heard in that room, I was pretty much done with it. But and at that time, I was working for the government, just not the agency that was had all the foolery going on. But back to this, to why I'm making this video. But I wanted to provide the backstory for why I was working towards a PhD in the first place. So when I finally selected a program, I ended up selecting Capella University. For me, number one, they were accredited. Number two, they had the program I was looking for. And like their graduates got out once they were out and they worked. And so I have to say, starting the program at Capella, I thought initially I thought it was just me. And I kept we had 3 residencies we had to attend. And it got to a point in your program that you couldn't move forward until you attended those residencies. The residencies cost money. I had a daughter, a younger child at the time, and my husband was in a key role, and it was a hot mess. And so for me, doing the coursework, I was thinking, I got to get through this coursework as fast as I can because these classes are expensive. I already have student loans from undergrad and grad school, and this stuff is adding up, and it's adding up fast. Was my mindset back in 2007, 8-ish timeframe. So I got through the coursework, and the way I was able to push through the coursework was I would group, when I was taking my classes, I would group like classes together. And so it was easier for me to keep up with the work by grouping the like classes. If the subject matter was similar, I could mix up and switch up some of the content of my papers and not have the same paper, because it wasn't the same paper for this different classes, but I was able to I began to strategize, if you will, with my papers. I started thinking early, what did I want to do my dissertation on? And then I started making sure I was looking at the references for, I started making sure I was looking at the references for that I was putting in my paper to make sure they were current, recent, and relevant so that I could also use them in my dissertation. As I was doing my lit reviews for each of my papers, and we had to do like 30, 40-page papers, like nothing, like a drop of a hat. We're writing 30 and 40-page papers in this class. But they were training us up to get ready for our dissertation. The only thing I would say was I was so used to writing the 30 and 40-page papers that when it came time for comprehensive exams and we had to write a question and answer it within 10 pages each question, that's where it got a little challenging. But I can tell you the rigor of the program was like nothing I ever seen. Like my head would like literally hurt with some of the questions and the conversations that were going on in the program. And it really didn't click for me until I went to the residency. When I went to my first residency, I think it was in Phoenix, Arizona. Like, I was like, oh man, I wish I'd had this information. Remember, told you I was putting it off. I wish I'd had this information at the beginning of the program. This would have helped me so much. Well, by that time, I was almost finished. Like I would say at least a third of the way done. And then, so my other 2 residencies were in Washington, D.C., Phoenix, and I did one in Atlanta. And it wasn't until I sat down with the other students at the school, in the School of Education, when we were at the Atlanta one, and I heard them talking, And one gentleman was like, yeah, my friend, he's in a PhD program. And he actually, I don't know, he called one of the colleges there that has doctoral programs. And he was like, we're running circles around what they're doing. And he is actually in the classroom. But when I tell him all the stuff that we're doing, and then he tells me the stuff that they're doing, and I'm like, man, they're really trying to make this degree like mean something when you get out. So for me, I felt like I made the right decision by attending the school. I also felt like when I heard that from the School of Education majors, that I felt kind of like a sigh of relief because I wasn't the only one that was like, man, this stuff is hard. But I think they weed you out. They may not weed you out up front. And so if you don't self-destruct, if you will, in the coursework, they can weed you out with your comprehensive exams. So I got really good at looking at what is the question asking, and then looking at the response. Am I answering the question being asked? That was my biggest takeaway from the comprehensive exams. And then for the dissertation, like I did my dissertation on military spouse employment and if it affects retention, because it was affecting my spouse's retention in terms of wanting to stay or go. If I'm having a hard time finding a job and I'm actively looking for one and I can't find one, even though I'm qualified, that it can affect retention. And so I got in contact with an Army senior leader, was able to conduct my research at two of the largest Army installations where the population for military spouses would be great. And I was able to get cleared through IRB. I did my research, made some tweaks to an existing survey, and kept it moving. And like, yeah, I because I had a topic that I was passionate about, that was personally affecting me, like I was all in. But the only thing I can tell you is life will happen, whether you're in a traditional or an online program. And for me, it was a PCS move combined with the birth of my son. So I think I took maybe an additional 9 months longer than I should. My husband was like, look, you're gonna have to get this paper out of my house because this is taking up a lot of time and it's still costing money. But I can tell you that for me, Capella University, the experience I had, the cohorts I had, the small group, our cohort leaders, just the residencies, everything to me was top notch. And I don't know, they could have changed it since I went through, but I graduated back in 2010. Shortly thereafter, I was able to start working, teaching online, and I was also working my government job. And like for me, it just got to be a lot. And then the icing on the cake for me was my daughter was like, well, you said when you finished, you were not gonna be on the computer as much. And I did promise her that. So I told her, I said, okay, let me get through the classes I'm teaching right now. And I had to let it go because I did make that promise to her. And so that was back in 2011 or 12, no, 2012-ish, I think, when I stopped teaching. But I recently started back teaching because my kids are no longer smaller and need mommy the way they used to. And it's time for me to spread my wings and do great things. And so I just wanted to share this video to let people know all online schools are not bad. There are some great online schools out there that have the rigor, that have the qualified instructors, that have the program, they have the majors. but you need to do what is best for you. If I had gone through a traditional doctoral program, brick and mortar, and had to change schools, if you will, because every school isn't everywhere. So if I had to change schools every time we PCS or moved, I would probably still be working on my doctorate, like trying to finish it up. Whereas I completed it in 2010. So I think you should do what works best for you. Make sure you research the school. Number one, make sure they're accredited. Start with accredited online schools if you decide to do an online school. And then pick one based on the major that you're interested in. And also look to see like how many people who attend that school. And so now we have LinkedIn. It'll tell you how many of your alumni fellow cohorts are working for an organization. You can kind of see if the people are working or not. So, I mean, if I had it to do all over again, I would do it the exact same way. I would probably skip over that first school because they were not it. But for me, Capella University was a top-notch decision. The staff there was great. The residencies all ran smooth. They were great. They even had little breakout sections for like military affiliated soldiers and family members who were maybe in the program there for a residency. If you're trying to really do a good one, I like money wise, I don't know if they still, again, I don't know if they still do residencies, but if I had to compare the three, I would say the one in Phoenix was really nice. The one in the DC area was really nice, but you had to pay one fee for the residency and then a whole nother fee for like your food and your hotel and all of that. But the one in DC that was at the old Xerox compound, whatever you paid for the residency, it included you staying in a room in that compound, and they also had like a little cafeteria there, so you didn't have to leave. And but each residency had like after hour activities for you to be able to get to know your cohorts. I think there was a game, like a baseball game in the Arizona one. In Atlanta, we went to a tour of the city, and I think they may have gone to the aquarium and to Dr. King's house. And in DC, I don't remember where we might have gone to the monuments. I don't remember where exactly that one was in DC, but I was working on a book at that time, so I didn't go. I was in the room trying to maximize on the time I had alone in that hotel room so I could push that book out. But that's all I wanted to share with you. Don't listen to people saying that, online degrees aren't worth anything, because that's just absolutely not correct. Online degrees are worth a lot. It just depends on the program you attend. They don't ask you when you finish, what was your GPA? Although my GPA was higher than undergrad, the older I got, the more intense and more focused I got on my grades. But what I'm saying is, they're not asking you what school did you attend, what's your GPA, are you functional, can you execute this work, is what they want to know. So if you have any questions of me regarding military spouse employment, regarding online PhD programs, my experience with Capella University, go Capella, put your questions in the comment box and I will respond to them. Other than that, I can put the website for Capella University, and I'm not getting a kickback. I can put the website for Capella University in the description box, or I can put a link to the top rated online PhD programs, and it'll probably vary. So I'm not going to do that because it'll be multiples. I'll just put, how about this? If you're interested in looking for an online PhD program, pull up Google or Bing or whatever it is that you use and search for an accredited online PhD program with whatever major you're looking for. And that will be your list right there, because that description box is going to get long based on all those other things. And thank you again for watching my video. I hope I answered some of your questions. Again, if you have any questions or comments that were not addressed in this video, please feel free to drop them in the comments box, and I will answer them once I get to them, once I see them. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you again for watching, and go be great.